A Salt Lake City federal agent within the Department of Homeland Security accused of using an informant to illegally sell drugs.
Salt Lake City Council voted unanimously for district rezone on the west side. More details coming up.
After nearly 200 trees died here on the west side of Salt Lake City, what the city is doing to fix that problem.
We still have a little bit of haze in the forecast tomorrow, but we've got some active weather moving in. We'll tell you when it arrives.
Live from Utah's news leader, Fox 13 News at 9 starts right now.
And we are glad you're with us. I'm Max Roth in for Bob Evans this week. Our big story tonight, we are hearing from the man who bought a used car from Tim Daly Mazda and crashed it into the dealership because he says they told him he could not return it. Police say Michael Murray purchased the car yesterday and then brought it back a few hours later saying it had mechanical issues. A manager at the dealer, Tyler Slade, says they sold the car as is, but they were willing to work with him before he rammed into the building.
You can imagine a big bang and a lot of scrambling employees. Again, because we had a little bit of warning, we were able to clear, and there was a lot of shuffling going on at the last minute before the customer rammed through the front door.
Well, today, Michael Murray is out on bail, and Inside Edition spoke with him.
What on earth were you thinking?
I was just really angry. I was upset about my money. I kind of blacked out for a second.
But Michael, in what universe is it okay to do this?
You know, I know I probably shouldn't have done it, but I guess I just hit a breaking point.
Police say the cost of the damage so far is about $10,000. Murray was charged with 1 count of felony criminal mischief, 1 count of reckless endangerment, and economic interruption. Developing, a federal agent has been arrested in Salt Lake City, accused of using a confidential informant to illegally sell bath salts. The Homeland Security agent allegedly made hundreds of thousands of dollars. Fox 13 News reporter Chris Arnold looked into it.
Part of Homeland Security's job is to prevent drugs from entering into the United States.
Clayton Sims is a local criminal defense attorney.
Rather than stop that, this Homeland Security officer, the allegations are, facilitated that, encouraged that, and actually carried out drug deals rather than stop them.
Sims is talking about a Salt Lake City federal agent within the Department of Homeland Security who is accused of using a confidential informant to illegally sell bath salts.
Bath salts are not heroin, cocaine, and meth, but it's very damaging to your health, and it's similar to a methamphetamine in terms of effects.
These documents state that David Cole, who worked with the agency's investigations office, was charged with 1 count of conspiracy to distribute and possess a controlled substance in an indictment that was handed down this week. It shows that back in March or April of this year, Cole and another agent identified as Person A initiated an arrangement with a confidential informant who they had been working with since May of 2023 to pay them $5,000 in exchange for bath salts that they would be permitted to sell on the street without it being part of a Homeland Security investigations operation. Over the course of several months, the informant says those unlawful drug deals were done once or twice a week here in Utah.
You're breaking the law that you're specifically designed and hired to defend. And so there's a special trust there that's broken.
The documents go on to say that it's estimated that Cole and Person A profited $150,000 to $300,000 in illegal proceeds from the drug buys. An attorney representing the informant ultimately contacted the U.S. Attorney's Office in October, saying they had been required by Cole and Person A to engage in acts they believed to be unlawful. During search warrants executed earlier this month, the documents state agents seized substances that appeared to be bath salts, more than $67,000 in cash, and other evidence.
Very rare to have a Homeland Security agent charged with a federal felony. It would be serious for any person to be charged with the amount of drugs that they distributed.
Fox 13 News did ask Sims what kind of charges Cole could face in this case. Well, he said it's difficult to say where the charges will end up. He did say this certainly appears to be a sentence wherein which a person will do at least 10 plus years in prison. As for what's next for Cole, he is set to appear in federal court for a detention hearing on Friday. Here in West Valley City, Chris Arnold, Fox 13 News, Utah.
The Salt Lake City Council met this evening to make their final decision on the Jordan River Fair Park District zoning. Fox 13 News reporter Avery Klanowski was at the meeting, and she is live downtown with the details. Avery.
Max, this decision has been an agreement in the works. Tonight, City Council passed on rezoning over in the west side in an area that they call the Power District. We spoke with Council Chair Victoria Petro before tonight's meeting. She says this development agreement is full of meaningful negotiations. The district rezone is about 95 acres between I-80 and North Temple on Redwood Road along the Jordan River. The project, led by Larry H. Miller Group, will include bars, mixed living, and an MLB stadium.
And I think that this represents a historic opportunity for those residents. And I hope that we can live up to that. And I think that we can with this agreement that we have.
This is the second time this year we've been presented with the opportunity to shape something that's going to irrevocably shape the face of future Salt Lake City. And I'm really proud of the work that we've done here.
Issues and you charted a path.
Adding that the vote will also have a significant impact on economic availability. City Council members hope that their constituents are as excited about this vote as they are, as the city continues to develop in many ways. Live in Salt Lake City, Avery Klanowski, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Thank you, Avery. Well, today, Salt Lake City's Redevelopment Agency Board of Directors, which is really the City Council acting with Redevelopment Authority, reviewed 3 designs for redeveloping the Smiths Ballpark site. As we reported last night, the 3 scenarios are preserving the ballpark entirely, adaptive reuse, meaning keeping part of the ballpark structure but using it for something else, and finally removing the ballpark altogether and completely rebuilding it into something more nature-focused.
Like Board Member Mano mentioned, I was in my mind already sort of had an idea maybe how it was going to look, but then when I saw this in our meeting, I was drawn to one more than the other ones, and I'm impressed with what you were able to do, and I'm hopeful that the community feedback is going to show in the future stages of this plan. So that said, I am very thankful.
And a final recommendation for what they call the Ballpark Next project is expected early next year. Then the RDA will likely put out an open call requesting proposals for how phase 1 of the new project would be completed. After 2 years of construction, the busiest bus corridor in Utah is officially open. Salt Lake City gave 200 South a dramatic transformation. The street now features the city's first exclusive bus lane and upgraded bus stops. In all, it amounts to 10 bus routes connecting Front Runner to the University of Utah.
What we've accomplished here on 2nd South is part of a larger vision to make downtown a place where you don't always need a car in your life.
With bike lanes and enhanced crosswalks, Mayor Aaron Mendenhall says intersections are now safer for pedestrians and cyclists. Well, city crews accidentally poisoned nearly 200 trees in the Fair Park area last year, and now they're trying a fix that will take a couple of steps as they make the soil safe again. Fox 13 News reporter Maithili Gubi has the story that she has been on since the summer and brings us the latest.
It's a fresh start for trees in the Fair Park neighborhood in Salt Lake City, after about 175 of them died when crews used the wrong kind of herbicide last October.
We've instituted a double safe checkout system for herbicides, special lock boxes that only supervisors and trained warehouse staff have access to, so this shouldn't happen again in the future.
Now Salt Lake City Public Lands is working on a way to bring trees back to the area. So before planting trees directly into the soil,
to use some temporary wooden planter boxes and bring some trees in so we can re-beautify, reshade the area.
Trees like oak, elm, and sycamores are going in these planter boxes. The goal is to hopefully be able to put them in the ground next year, but at least have trees lining the sidewalk till then.
We do really care about the Fair Park neighborhood. We want to do everything we can to get these trees out there It's a balance between waiting for the soil to clear and then planting trees, or getting something out there in this timeline. We thought it was important to get something out there to show how much we care to get shade and beauty back in this neighborhood.
The city says they hope to have all the new trees and planters by the end of this year. In Salt Lake City, I am Maitili Gobi, Fox 13 News, Utah.
So those trees have to hang out outside in the cold.
They do.
But it has been nice these days. At least that sunshine's been great. Good weather to get outside.
And reaching us, you know, the air, much improved. Big improvement from the past week or so. Here's our live view now from the Oquirrh Mountain camera. So nice to look down at this and not see a layer of smog. Isn't that beautiful? What a nice night all around. Air quality much improved. We've been in the greens and yellows. So that's a lot better than the oranges, reds that we were seeing last week. So we should stay the next couple of days in this green category. We'll flirt with the yellow a little bit, and then we'll be back to green. We have a lot of very active weather, so consistent storms in the pattern, and that will help to mix the air, which is really nice. 30 degrees now here in Salt Lake City, 29 in Ogden. Going to be a pretty chilly night overnight. Some places in Nevada got down to the single digits over by Ely overnight. So cold temperatures, some places in the teens. We'll be in the 20s here in Salt Lake, but either way, no matter how you slice or dice it, it's going to be cold tonight. Some haze will be building for tomorrow. That's on Wednesday, but nothing like last week. It's not going to get thick like that. And we have that continued pattern of storms coming in, so that will definitely help improve things. Active weather moves in again on Thursday and Friday. I wish these storms had a little bit more punch with them, but it'll help keep the air clean. So smaller storms, but more frequent. And that is definitely some welcome news. 25 degrees right now here in Provo and 30 in Salt Lake City, 37 in St. George. Overnight, our temperatures are heading down into the 20s again with clear skies. So coming up, we'll talk about that pattern change and all of those improvements in the air quality.
Thanks so much, Dina. Well, coming up, the man accused of killing a healthcare CEO was belligerent as deputies escorted him into a Pennsylvania court today. We'll show you. Plus, what President Biden said today about his administration's economic accomplishments as his term in office is just over a month from ending. And thousands are under evacuation orders as crews work to contain a fast-moving wildfire in Malibu, California. We're going to show you the damage.
And completely out of touch and insult the intelligence of the American people and the lived experience.
That's accused killer Luigi Mangione, defiant ahead of an extradition hearing today, challenging authorities' efforts to get him back to New York. Prosecutors charged him with second-degree murder in the killing of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Mangione was arrested in Pennsylvania yesterday, and they arraigned him on gun and forgery charges, saying he had fake identification and a so-called ghost gun with a silencer. Police say he was also carrying a handwritten manifesto describing, quote, parasitic health insurance companies. He's currently in a Pennsylvania jail without bail. The Manhattan DA wants him in New York, but will have to go through a contested extradition process. Investigators are continuing to look into Mangione's background.
I think probably the one thing they want to understand is there a mental health history? Because that's the one thing that I would want to know if I'm doing the investigation in this case, to kind of help me understand more about where he is and how he got to this point.
Mangione's extradition is in little doubt, with his challenge being more of a delay than anything. And recent postings to social media, apparently from the suspect in that shooting of United Healthcare CEO, may offer clues about the motive in the case. Luigi Mangione seemed to relate to writings from one of the most notorious killers in recent history, the so-called Unabomber. Scripps News investigative reporter Patrick Terpstra explains.
The man known as the Unabomber wrote a manifesto decades ago that the suspect in the United Healthcare shooting apparently read and reviewed, perhaps opening a window into his thoughts on using violence as a tool. Luigi Mangione, the suspect in the shooting of United Healthcare CEO, appears to have left a review on Goodreads earlier this year of the title Industrial Society and Its Future, otherwise known as the Unabomber Manifesto, the writings of the late Ted Kaczynski, who terrorized the country in the 80s and 90s, mailing bombs from his log cabin in Montana, killing 3 people and injuring dozens of others. Kaczynski called for a revolution against the industrial system, saying this revolution may or may not make use of violence. Author Brian Denson has written about Kaczynski, who the FBI coined the Unabomber.
I don't think he saw anything wrong with violence as a means to the end, which was to strike out against industrial society however he could do it.
In his review of the Unabomber manifesto, Mangione seemed to be okay with using violence as a way to make corporations listen to opposition, writing about the oil industry. These companies don't care about you or your kids or your grandkids. They have zero qualms about burning down the planet for a buck, so why should we have any qualms about burning them down to survive? Violence never solved anything is a statement uttered by cowards and predators, the review says. Mangione's review calls Kaczynski a prodigy, but says he was rightfully imprisoned for maiming innocent people, perhaps an understanding by Mangione that there should be consequences for murder. Patrick Terpstra, Scripps News, Washington.
Well, good evening. I'm Fox 13 meteorologist Dina Friedman with your forecast. We've had much better air quality and nice views all around the state. This one sure was pretty tonight. Over by Timpanogos, the moon coming up. Thank you so much. We love seeing your photos on our Facebook page on Utah's Weather Authority. Right now, we've had clear skies all around, 30 degrees and just a little bit of a light breeze. So turning out to be a really nice night. Overnight, our forecast low temperature is around 24 degrees tonight. Clear skies, a little bit of haze will start to build tomorrow, but nothing like what we saw last week. We shouldn't get back into that anytime soon. 30 degrees now, our current temperature here, 25 in Provo. We're at 37 degrees in St. George, and this morning it was really cold outside, and it will be cold outside again when we wake up here on our Wednesday morning. So some of our low temperatures this morning were actually a little cooler than this. We were in the 20s in Salt Lake, and we were actually in the single digits in Ely. So it was really cold all around, and it'll be that way again. So you can expect really similar temperatures when we wake up there on Wednesday morning. So our low temperature officially was 25 degrees, and our high temperature today was only 40. Look at that. Really close to normal. Our record low, oh, thank goodness, nowhere near that minus 13. And our sunset now, hey, good news, the days are only getting shorter for around 10 more days or so. So that's great. The shortest day of the year coming up, and then it'll get longer after that. So that's some promising news. Here's our satellite picture tonight. We had clear skies throughout the afternoon, and we'll have some high cloud cover moving in ahead of our next storm. So by the time we get into tomorrow afternoon, we'll see a nice deck of cirrus clouds move in. It should make for a pretty sunset tomorrow night on our Wednesday. Futurecast shows high pressure around, and there's that cloud deck that's going to move in tomorrow. And then by the time we get into Thursday afternoon, we open the door for our next storm. It's not terribly moist, but it'll keep the air mixed up, which is great news. But we do want to look at the upper level flow because this is really exciting. We have a pattern change, and we had such stagnant weather recently. So we have high pressure today. Here's storm number 1. So that's going to be on Thursday night into Friday. So that mixes things up. It gets a little quiet for about 24 hours. Then there's another one that dips in late Saturday night into Sunday. Oh, and look, there's another one on the horizon, and that one's for the middle part of next week. So every few days we have something moving in. Let's hope we can up the moisture chances. That would be good. 24 degrees for our overnight low here in Salt Lake City tonight. And tomorrow our high temperature should get close to about 40 to 42 degrees, 50 degrees in St. George. Your temperatures will be around 50 for the next week or so. That's really nice. And you've got in and out of cloud cover, not significant precipitation for you. So temperature close to 40 tomorrow here in Salt Lake City with that building haze. And then there's that light rain snow mix moving in on Thursday and Friday. We do that again on Sunday and possibly in the middle part of next week. So more active weather moves in, and the air should be a little bit cleaner again as we head into the weekend. We'll be right back.
President Biden talked about his administration's economic legacy in a major speech today. The president contrasted what he calls his middle-out and bottom-up approach with President-elect Trump's trickle-down economic policies. President Biden says he's hopeful the next administration will not diminish the progress in the economy made so far.
Next month, my administration will end and a new administration will begin. Most economists agree the new administration is going to inherit a fairly strong economy, at least at the moment. An economy going through fundamental transformation. that's laid out a stronger foundation and a sustainable, broad-based, highly productive growth. That is my profound hope that the new administration will preserve and build on this progress.
Ahead of the president's speech, the White House unveiled a website highlighting his administration's record on the economy. A brush fire erupts in Malibu, the wealthy coastal community north of Los Angeles, forcing thousands from their homes. The Franklin fire has grown to 2,200 acres since it started overnight. 2,000 students at Pepperdine University had to shelter in place. Some homes have been destroyed. There are more than 700 firefighters working it, and they are urging neighbors to conserve water.
That water should be used for firefighting and not to sprinkle or irrigate your lawns. And it's going to be of little use from having a brush fire start near your home.
A red flag warning remains in effect for much of Southern California through tomorrow. A new audit looks into education in Utah as scores drop across the nation, what it reveals. And tomorrow, the nation's first female state senator, a Utahn, will be enshrined at the National Statuary Hall in Washington. We'll take a look at the legacy of Dr. Martha Hughes Cannon. A new audit is setting off alarms in Utah's education system. It shows across all subjects and grade levels, Utah students are not improving, and that follows a national trend. Take a look at this graph. It comes from the nation's report card, and that was released by the National Assessment of Education Progress in 2022. So these are the numbers for reading proficiency in fourth grade. And what you can see is from 2015 over here to 2017, right in this area, it began to decline. Now, adding in data for the 8th grade here, you see a spike around that same time, right around here, and then a decline. Average scores there are in line with 1992, all the way back there. Fox 13 News anchor Amy Nay dug into the report.
We do audits that the legislature requests, and they've really focused on education.
Leah Blevins is a manager with the Legislative Auditor General's office based on Capitol Hill. Her office has performed 18 audits in just the past 4 years focused on education in Utah.
We looked at the state online education program. We looked at governance of the entire education system, teacher performance, teacher and student evaluations. We've looked at a lot of different areas of education.
In this latest audit released Monday on student performance on statewide tests and the importance of focusing on underperforming student groups, they pointed out that all Utah students in all grades don't seem to be improving, and specific subgroups showed an even greater gap.
The groups that we looked at were economically disadvantaged students, multilanguage learners, and students minority students. And there are some districts in the state and some LEAs who really have done a good job at working on closing that gap. And we were able to talk to them for this report,
suggesting certain practices that worked in their local education authority's school.
So what we recommended to LEAs is that they look at their numbers, because a lot of LEAs weren't looking at the numbers in this way that we provided to show that gap, and really make some data-driven decisions on, are the things that they're trying to do to help those students, are they effective, or should they try other things?
Do you think that we fell behind in the pandemic and we haven't yet made up for that?
We definitely fell behind in the pandemic. I believe that almost every school district in the country fell behind during the pandemic. And there are still, I know teachers are still working on making gains on that. One of the effects from the pandemic that were kind of unexpected is attendance levels have really dropped.
Leah says students haven't returned to class at a consistent level like attendance records showed before 2020. But as for the goal of every audit from their office, Leah says it's to help Utah kids and those who are passionate about their education.
So you're hoping this can shed some light on maybe where there are these gaps and what we can do about it?
Yes, and we want to lift education. We want to really help it improve and help point out not only the areas that need improvement, but also the areas where some LEAs are doing really well. Let's look at them. Let's figure out what they're doing to see if it translates.
The results and suggestions are available for you to see for yourself on their website, olag.utah.gov. Amy Nay, Fox 13 News, Utah.
I used to always be confused by that acronym LEA. It's a local education agency, essentially a district. As far as state test scores are concerned, there's a gap in the reading ability of third graders. Public radio station KUER reports, according to the Utah Board of Education, 48.1% of third graders are able to meet reading standards for their grade level. One of the biggest solutions being offered by educators is making sure both administrators and teachers share a strategy.
I heard a lot of people talk about making sure that administrators are supporting teachers and working with them and holding them accountable. I think that's a big thing that people say is missing right now in trying to reach that goal.
Another big part of the solution is making sure kids have a lot of books at home. And not all the news is bad. According to federal statistics, Utah's third graders are among the top 8 in the nation. Nationally, third grade reading proficiency is at 33%. Well, in a way, everything's relative. Do you have ideas on how to improve education in Utah? We'd like to hear what you think. To weigh in, scan the QR code on your screen or go to fox13now.com/voice. Davis County has approved a 57% increase in the portion of property tax dedicated to animal services. That comes out to about $13 a year for a $578,000 home and about $23 a year for a business.
Davis County has not had a property tax increase since 2017. As a result, property tax collection has remained relatively flat. And new growth is not intended to account for inflationary losses that are intentionally built into the truth and taxation process. Rather, it's intended to provide funding for additional services required from the growth of the county. So just the one place this year that we have gone through truth and taxation is just for the animal services. Otherwise, we haven't done this since 2016 to be enacted in 2017.
Davis Animal Care says it will fund 6 new staff members and other resources. Oh boy, the evening commute. Take a look at it. Not pretty. It was more of a crawl for those who are headed west from Salt Lake City after a crash with 3 cars happened on I-80 near 5600 West. It happened just before the 5 o'clock rush. Westbound lanes of I-80 were shut down for a while. Gradually, several lanes opened. We are still waiting on more details of what led to that crash. UHP, though, does say no one was hurt. It has been 9 months since Utah Highway Patrol trooper Steve Meyer fell off an overpass while deploying spike strips to stop a suspect fleeing from police. Tonight we've learned he is back on light duty. Trooper Meyer broke several bones, and in a detail that's hard to believe is survivable, his heart shifted into his armpit. He fell 33 feet from that overpass at 7200 West near I-80 back in February. He has spent months recovering at his home in Erda with the goal of getting back to work. Trooper Meyer told us when we interviewed him earlier this year, it's a miracle he survived that fall. Tomorrow, the statue of Dr. Martha Hughes Cannon, the first female state senator in the U.S., will be unveiled at the National Statuary Hall in Washington, D.C. Dr. Martha Hughes Cannon was elected to the Utah legislature in 1896, 24 years before most women in America could even vote. As a physician, she founded the state health department and the Utah School for the Deaf and Blind. Really an astounding woman. Right now, members of the Utah Highway Patrol Honor Guard are in Washington, D.C. to safely escort the statue to the Capitol.
Martha meant a lot to people who have never even been to Utah, just from the standpoint of our nation's history with suffragism. And so I'm very excited to be here, and I also am very grateful for the opportunity to learn a little bit more about someone that I didn't even really know had paved the way for me.
I'm a little sad that Philo Farnsworth's statue is going away, but she certainly deserves the honor. Tomorrow's unveiling is happening at 1 p.m. Mountain Time, and we're going to have coverage of that tomorrow on Fox 13 News.
The U.S. Supreme Court hears arguments in a case involving a rail line in eastern Utah. We'll take you inside the court arguments coming up next.
And we're back to some nice weather out there. It was cold today, but the air was clear. Temperature this afternoon hit 40 degrees after starting off at around 25 degrees. We do have some active weather that's coming in. We'll tell you when it arrives coming up.
Well, today, the U.S. Supreme Court heard arguments about a Utah project, an 88-mile line of proposed railway in eastern Utah. As Fox 13 News political reporter Ben Winslow explains, what the justices decide could impact infrastructure projects across the country.
The U.S. Supreme Court in Washington, D.C. heard a lawsuit over a rail line thousands of miles away. The proposed Uinta Basin Railway is in eastern Utah, transporting oil from the Uinta Basin to Gulf Coast states for processing. Eagle County, Colorado, and environmental groups challenged it. Dita Seed with the Center for Biological Diversity is one of those who sued over the project.
And what we're saying is that you need to look at all of the environmental harm, and frankly, the harm to the Colorado River corridor needs to be included, and the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals agreed with us.
The 7 counties in Utah pushing the project appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court, who took the case.
It is designed to inform government decision-making, not paralyze it.
In arguments, the justices looked at the limits of the National Environmental Protection Act, which examines the impact of development projects.
Because you want absolute rules that make no sense.
With respect, I guess you'll decide whether they make sense.
So many different agencies are involved, so many different environmental checks are in place on land, air, water, pollution. What is NEPA adding to the substantive statutes, and how should that affect how we think about NEPA in terms of what the judicial role is with respect to enforcing NEPA?
As it's currently applied in the D.C. Circuit and the Ninth Circuit, NEPA is adding a juicy litigation target for project opponents.
But lawyers for Eagle County and the environmental groups see it differently.
The impacts at issue here are reasonably foreseeable consequences of this $2 billion railway project, whose entire rationale is to transport crude oil.
Utah's Republican political leaders and the Ute tribes support the Uinta Basin Railway. In a statement, Governor Spencer Cox's office says he fully supports the construction of the railway, a critical infrastructure project that will help restore America's energy independence while delivering significant economic benefits to rural Utah. Requiring agencies to engage in speculative analysis of distant downstream impacts, as the D.C. Circuit Court has done, sets a dangerous precedent that jeopardizes energy-related projects nationwide.
We're worried because the National Environmental Policy Act is a bedrock environmental law that protects the public interest against a rampaging industry that wants to build whatever it wants, wherever it wants, without consequences.
A decision by the justices will come next year. In Salt Lake City, Ben Winslow, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Coming up, the University of Utah men's basketball team is giving back this holiday season. We're going to show you who they served tonight.
And the #1 college basketball recruit in the country is headed to BYU. We'll tell you about the signing of A.J. Debantzer coming up in sports. And the Utah Hockey Club going after their 3rd win in a row tonight at home against Minnesota. The highlights are on the way.
Well, earlier in the newscast, Dina, you mentioned we're just 10 days away from the solstice.
I know, isn't that cool?
That's nice. Then it starts getting lighter.
Then it starts getting lighter. I know. I was thinking about that earlier, watching that sun go down so early, and then thought, oh, you know what? Soon the days will be longer again, and it works like that. All right, well, pretty evening tonight, moonrise here in Springdale, Utah, so close to Zion National Park. Gorgeous, beautiful day in southern Utah. Sunshine, Red Rocks. You can't beat it. Temperatures have been in the 50s and 60s down there. Really nice weather. 30 degrees here in Salt Lake City and 29 in Ogden. Temperature now 25 in Provo. For the rest of the night, we've got clear skies here in Salt Lake. Pretty calm. Cold night. Temperatures will be in the 20s again, but the air quality right now is still pretty decent and going to stay that way. So we do have lows tonight in the teens for some places. Here in Salt Lake again, we'll be in the 20s. So we do have some haze building in our forecast on our Wednesday afternoon, but nothing like last week at all because we have more active weather moving in late on Thursday into Friday, and that should help clear everything out. So we have a lot of storms coming up. They're not really moist, but they are powerful enough to shift the winds and keep the air clean, and that's a thumbs up from everybody here. 30 degrees here in Salt Lake City, 25 in Provo, and 27 degrees in Hanksville tonight. Already down to 15 in Bryce. Going to be a chilly night for you, and we're in the 30s here in St. George now. So underneath the clear skies, it will get cold tonight. We can look off to the west and see what's going on. Big area of low pressure way off the coast, so that'll be a little bit till it gets here, but we'll start to see the clouds move in tomorrow, especially some higher level cirrus clouds. So that should make a really pretty sunset tomorrow night. That's something to look forward to. Futurecast with the high pressure moving on out, and then we've got the cloud cover moving in, and an area of low pressure sets up to move across the state late Thursday night into Friday. So we'll increase the cloud cover and put in a little bit of moisture as well. But exciting news on the weather front because we do have the first system that comes in Thursday into Friday, but then look again, another one entering in on Sunday. So that's awesome. So we definitely have more active weather moving in late Saturday into Sunday, and then another storm in the distance there for the middle part of next week. So every few days we're getting something. That's great news. 24 degrees overnight here, clear skies. 14 tonight in Milford, 17. And Cedar City, chilly tonight. But tomorrow, nice day, up to 42 here in Salt Lake City, 44 in Provo, and we'll have an increase in that cloud cover, especially in the afternoon, but we'll call it partly cloudy overall. Around 50 here in southern Utah. Nice weather, mostly dry, most of the moisture going to be off to your north here. So we've got a chance there of some rain, snow mixing into Thursday and Friday, and then again into Sunday and again next Tuesday. So very active weather setting up, and temperatures are mainly staying in the 40s.
The #1 college basketball recruit in the country, AJ Dybantsa, is signed to play at BYU for a reported $7 million name, image, and likeness deal. Wow. Fox 13's Andrea Urban has more.
The #1 recruit in the country, AJ Dybantsa, was down to BYU, Kansas, Alabama, and North Carolina. And the 5-star phenom announced on national television this morning that he will be taking his talents here to BYU.
I'll be coming into Brigham Young University.
Brigham Young,
BYU.
Yeah.
He's a real fun young man to talk to, you know, especially for as touted as he is. I mean, he's got a great head on his shoulders. He's very intelligent, mature beyond his years. I don't feel like I'm talking to a young high school player. It's hard to be on our campus in really any sporting event and not feel the passion and feel that, you know, people are going to really have your back and stuff. So I think it had a huge impact, not only on him, but on his family. Parts of his game resemble a lot of the great players. You know, I think defensively he reminds me of Paul George. Some of the passing is LeBron-like. He's a mix of a lot of different guys, but I mean, I like, you know, his confidence where he goes out there and just tries to be himself. You know, he's not trying to really be anybody else.
Orem High's Chamberlain Burgess was the first commit to this year's BYU class, and we caught up with the 6'9" 4-star for his reaction to the news that has basketball fans from coast to coast talking.
Their coaching staff, obviously AJ said it in his interview, where it's like they're all pro, and so they can help you get there. And also you just feel like involved and included. I stood out on my visit. Obviously Coach Kevin Young there. You know, my ultimate goal is to get to the NBA.
We try not to get too high, get too low, and just continue to build up that trust and that relationship. I mean, honestly, it wasn't until AJ himself called me and told me he was coming that I was breathing a little easier.
Kevin Young has the Cougars at 6-2 in his first season at the helm. BYU hosts Fresno State on Wednesday night. In Provo, Andrea Urban, Fox 13 Sports, Utah.
So cool. Jazz star Lauri Markkanen was seated down low for tonight's Utah Hockey Club game against Minnesota, along with Jazz head coach Will Hardy and Ryan Smith. First period, Michael Carcone gets it back to Kevin Stenlund. He shoots and scores his third goal in the last 3 games, so he's red hot. Here's another look at it. Sets it up and fires it into the back of the net. 1-0 Utah. But a couple of misplays were costly in the second period. Kirill Kaprizov scores his 18th goal of the season to put the Wild up 2-1. Utah was on a power play earlier in the third period with Clayton Keller. Shoots and scores, and that tied the score up at 2. Minnesota went back up on top 3-2, but now Utah has just tied it up 3-3. Real Salt Lake will play Herediano from Costa Rica in the 2-game home-and-home first-round series in the 2025 CONCACAF Champions Cup in February. It's a 27-team tournament between the top teams in North America, Central America, and the Caribbean. So that's good news for RSL. We'll see how they do in that tournament. They almost won it in 2011 when they made it to the finals, losing at home in a very sad night at Rio Tinto Stadium back in the day. That's
wow, I do remember that now.
Yeah.
CONCACAF. I love that name. I've always loved that word.
Yes, it is.
I'm a little freaked out by $7 million for a high school senior to go to BYU.
The game has changed in college sports. There's no doubt about it. This is the most ever anybody's gotten paid.
And
to go
we
play
don't
basketball.
know how much or where it comes from. I mean, yeah, interesting stuff. Okay, we'll be right back. Okay, like where's Waldo? Look for Rainier in this. Where's Jeff? Finally tonight, the University of Utah men's basketball team served dinner at the American Cancer Society's Hope Lodge in Salt Lake City. The event is part of the American Cancer Society's Coaches versus Cancer program. Darcy Smith, the wife of Utes head coach Craig Smith, says it was his idea to give back in this way. And they also brought some of their children along on this volunteering experience.
As a men's basketball coach and as our family, I think it's part of our responsibility to give back and to help people in need. And so we're super grateful for the American Cancer Society. We asked our guys if they wanted to be a part of it. We were going to do it. We made it strictly voluntary. And every single player in our program showed up to be a part of this special occasion, and they're thrilled about it.
The American Cancer Society says events like these are so special for both caretakers and cancer patients who may have limited social interactions because of their weakened immune systems. Jeff, that was a neat event.
You know, when the players and the team walked in, it just lit up the place. It's
That's
so
great.
amazing how heartwarming it is.
That's terrific.
Nice. Yeah.
Even though I did not spot you.
I was hiding.
Okay. Thanks for watching Fox 13 News at 9. The Quickcast is next.